On my most recent trips to Dave & Buster's, I noticed the addition of the UNIS cabinet of Elevator Action Invasion. This is billed as a unique game made by UNIS with blessings from Taito to legally allow its similarities to Taito's Elevator Action Death Parade. The cabinet's biggest bullet point is with its elevator-style doors that open and close in between scenes of the game's vertical monitor. Outside of that, players grab one of the cabinet's gun controllers and fire away with a machine gun at the game's countless enemies. Added space mechanics, Elevator Action Invasion is enjoyable as a fast-paced action game, and this is bolstered by a combo mechanic that encourages you to use the machine gun to keep peppering enemies with bullets before the combo timer expires. Scoring mechanics and ranks are in place as a measuring stick to see how long players can hold their combos. The game's graphics look great, and the cabinet itself has a really sleek and interesting design. Elevator Action Invasion has no issue with filling the screen with enemies, and new enemy and trap types are sprinkled throughout the course of the game. While the game starts with basic soldiers, the game eventually introduces heavy soldiers with weak points to hit, soldiers that carry shields, small robots that resemble insects that try to swarm the players, soldiers that throw hatchets or grenades, and mech-style robots. The basic enemy layouts are fine throughout the course of the game, but I did note that it didn't seem like the enemies were taken out faster with headshots. I quickly found my groove with the game when it came to the general battles throughout the levels, but my strategy rarely evolved beyond spreading over the screen as much as possible. There were also rare instances where it seemed like the swarms of nanobots slowed the performance down a little, which was very noticeable when the firing rate of my gun reduced. I played through the entirety of Elevator Action Invasion by myself, and my biggest complaint overall with this is in the boss enemy battles. The bosses are fairly interesting in design, but the gameplay involved is nothing but shooting flashing weak points when prompted. The problem with this is in the multiple times I would be firing at a weak point from the very second it appeared on screen just to take a hit anyways from the boss. Since the gun is an auto-fire machine gun, I can't fire the gun any faster, so the implementation of automatic hits from the major enemy characters was the biggest in-game disappointment for me. I'd be willing to try the game again with a second player to see if the added ammunition makes a difference in this regard. For this part, I am going to speak about the conclusion of the game, so if you're still in a position where you don't want this ruined for you, please go ahead and skip this next segment. My playtime for this session was just shy of half an hour, which is probably the most you would want out of an arcade shooting game. I fought the game's third boss character in a tunnel and was given a final ranking of SS. I set my camera for a new recording in order to film the game's ending, only to be immediately transitioned over to the game over screen. I was holding the gun controller in one hand and operating my camera in the other hand, so I couldn't have possibly pressed the start button to skip any scenes. The characters were talking about reporting back to base, my score and rank were shown, and then boom, game over. This was really kind of a blow to my experience and looms over what I would have otherwise called an above average game. There was largely no reward to me for investing the time and credits into the machine, and unless there is something I am missing in the game to see more content, it really kills my desire to ever play it again. Elevator Action Invasion is a decent time that I found was spoiled in those couple of key areas. It could have done more with the elevator mechanic as it merely served as a transition, maybe even hiding load times. There is a scene where the players are interrupted in between floors, resulting in a short battle from a different vantage point, but that is short-lived. There are even weird bits of pacing in scenes where the players get out of the elevator, defeat a handful of enemies, and then immediately turn around and get back into the elevator for another transition. Still, it's a competent game that unapologetically provides fast-paced shooting action for up to 2 players. It definitely fits the bill for providing an arcade rail shooter experience, but the couple of points I touched on really hang heavy on the experience I had playing this title. I wouldn't discourage anyone from checking out Elevator Action Invasion though, as it serves up a pretty straightforward action experience even if players decide they do not want to feed credits all the way through the game.